Our first weapon, the Trebuchet, a wonder weapon for sieges in the Middle Ages. With catapults, they are time-consuming but save soldiers' lives. In the 12th century, a new catapult technology from Asia conquers the battlefields. It is called Trebuchet. A reconstruction in Beckdorf, Lower Saxony, Germany. Weapons expert Mike Loades is impressed.
It's the most imposing and the most iconic of all medieval siege engines. And in an age before gunpowder, this was the heavy artillery.
What makes the Trebuchet so revolutionary is its efficiency.
And on the end of that beam is, in fact, a sling, and the stone sits in the sling. The principle of a sling is that it makes the levers of your arm longer and so throws further. If you were to put that sling on the end of a long stick, you would have an even longer system of levers, which is what we have here. The trouble is the beam is so big and so heavy that you need a machine to operate it. So you can think of the stone as the ammunition, the sling is the weapon, and the big wooden trebuchet is simply the engine that powers that weapon.
Scientists design new weapons for Hitler. They developed the first functioning cruise missile in history, called the V1. A more terrifying successor soon follows the wing bomb that bears the name Vengeance Weapon 1. The engineer behind the new weapon is Werner von Braun. His rocket has an operational altitude of 100 kilometers, the boundary between our atmosphere and outer space. At the time, this marked an unprecedented achievement. The V2 is operational by September 1944. While the V1 could be heard and sirens could warn the population, the V2 drops silently down on London. It's a supersonic rocket. Its deployment claims about 8,000 lives. Sometimes they look like they come straight from a science fiction movie. For example, the Railgun. But the US Navy is indeed testing it. The first phase is stationary, but the long-term goal is to operate the weapon from ships or ground vehicles. The patent for the Railgun was filed in 1918, but it took almost 100 years for this technology to be ready to use.
In railguns, propellants become completely redundant because the acceleration is caused by a magnetic field, not by an explosion. The principle behind railguns comes from physics and functions like this. I have a conductor, like a piece of wire, through which electricity is running. In addition, there is an external magnetic field that affects the wire. This creates a force that wants to move the conductor. Now, if you take a railgun, you don't have a wire, but you send the current right down the projectile. And if I now have a strong external magnetic field, there's an accelerating force impact on the projectile that is so powerful that it can generate a velocity 7 times the speed of sound.
This novel technology breaks all limitations of conventional fire weapons. For physical reasons, they cannot eject a projectile faster than 2 kilometers per second. The Railgun, on the other hand, fires almost 4 times as fast. Today, it can accurately hit a target that is 185 kilometers away. T84 Oblot, the latest generation of Russian tanks. Since 2009, they've been part of the Ukrainian Army's arsenal. On behalf of the Malyshev Weapons Factory, former military personnel carry out various tests at a training site in Kharkiv, eastern Ukraine.
So this is the Oblot, the latest successor to the T84, and it's got some amazing features. It's got explosive reactive armor, and it's got a 125mm gun, a smoothbore that can actually fire missiles. But perhaps most amazingly, it's a flying tank. It moves at 70 kilometers an hour on the road.
The target is a solid stone wall. The team also sets up explosive gasoline drums behind it. The T84's gun aims to destroy the target from a distance of 1.6 kilometers. From a distance of 1,650 meters, the tank reliably hits its target. In 2002, American weapons engineers developed what is known as the mother of all bombs. A 9-meter-long bomb with an explosive charge of 11 tons of TNT.
The idea is, of course, that nuclear weapons can do it bigger and better than anything conventional, but you're not allowed to use them without starting a world war. So let's build the biggest one we can, short of a nuclear weapon.
15 years after its development under President Trump, the mother of all bombs is used for the first time. On April 13, 2017, it hits the site of the terrorist militia of the Islamic State in Afghanistan. Every building within a 150-meter radius is destroyed. The impact of the attack's media message takes the foreground, but the actual military gain is controversial.
What does it add to the arsenal of the world? Very little. There is a sense in which military organizations competing with each other, that's not a competition with anybody else, that's internal, and that's about their share of the budget voted through in Washington. So having that bomb makes them look good in Washington. And I suspect that's largely what's behind this.
The Romans call their bolt catapult Scorpio, probably because their form bears a similarity to the dangerous arachnids. One weapon, various ways of building it. They all have one thing in common. They have a firing channel for the bolt, a sinew, and throwing arms. Ideas that the Romans did not come up with themselves.
When the Romans got hold of good ideas, they invariably improved them. And with the Scorpio, they take a Greek Hellenistic throwing engine and they turn it into a useful battlefield weapon.
Trugleben, Thuringia, Germany. Weapons expert Wolfgang Staber is building an advanced rocket, originally developed in Korea in the 15th century. The rocket, called Washa, is much more than just psychological warfare. It can fire up to 100 deadly projectiles simultaneously. The first rocket launcher in history.
So bomb design is not just about the thing that goes bang, it's about the bit that gets it to the ground accurately and precisely.
Petrov's aerial bomb is the first of its kind and gains worldwide popularity. It is initially deployed in 1912. The fins make the new bomb travel aerodynamically and stabilize it in the air, even if it's dropped manually like in World War I. 16th of July 1945, a desert in New Mexico. The Americans want to test a prototype of a new bomb. Code name of the experiment, Trinity. The first nuclear bomb in history. It's the dawn of a new era.